self-regulation,
I'm going
which
to get
is
on
a
to
big one for me.
Yeah, I'm getting on to regulation next, or self-management.
Okay. Motivation, empathy, and social skills. What's
So
missing
that all falls under 3, social awareness. We'll get
Oh.
to that. So it's like
Okay.
it's just different ways of saying the
I was
same
going
thing.
to say there's more than just.
There's a ton of stuff out there. It's big talk. So let's go on to part 2. There's another Lockard. It's a Lockard fest. Self-management, self-regulation, like you said, it obviously is a big one because you can talk about self-awareness all you want, but it doesn't do any good to recognize these things and not do anything about it or not make improvements in yourself or help the people around you make improvements. The quote that I loved, and I mentioned it on the call where we talked about this, was, do you react or do you respond? And that really hit home for me because I have spent years of my life reacting to everything.
Yeah, and then we're wired that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
The-
Yeah.
And it happens instantly, and you can't you can't react to what that.
So-
but you learn,
Right.
and that's the point what you're going to be bringing up. You have to
Right.
learn how to recognize that impulse of reaction, and then how to manage it differently.
Well, and you said something that I mentioned on our calls that I want to make sure our staff knows that I'm not preaching to people on these calls. These are things that I fall short on, and these are things that don't just happen. This isn't a thing, and that's another reason I put EI over IQ. IQ is born. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do to increase your IQ.
That's
this is
true.
stuff you have to work at because, like you said,
Right.
this goes against the grain of human nature almost across the
Yes.
board. Almost across the
All
board.
of it.
You can be as healthy and well-adjusted as you want to be. These are natural instincts. You have to fight and you have to practice. Like you
Right.
said, you have to train yourself to behave a certain way.
Right. That was going to be one of my questions to you. Is this a learned behavior?
Oh,
Obviously it is.
definitely.
Oh, absolutely.
And you just mentioned it. It needs practice.
Absolutely.
You can't read it, learn it, and go, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Oh no.
You have to- and then you have to put it
What
in
did I say
play,
last
man.
night when I was prepping for the show? I'm like, man, I
Right.
love this stuff. I
Right.
wish I didn't suck at it so bad.
Right. Well,
And some of them,
well,
it's parts, different parts. And then I mentioned we got on to part 4, and we were talking about organizational awareness or social awareness. And I started reading, I'm like, oh, I'm great at that. I'm doing that all the time. And,
Right.
and I'm going to talk about how it makes you a better salesperson when we get to that, because I think
Good.
social awareness is huge part of success. I told you, me
No
and
question.
Brad Robinson got into it, talking about it on Jason's page. We had a back and forth
Right.
about the importance of that. And that is, some of that is stuff that you're just born with. And you can work on it and fine tune your thought processes, but I'll get to it here in a minute. But let's talk more about self-management and responding instead of reacting. Like you said, it's that initial instinct. And I mentioned it when we had the call, you're exceptional at this. You've always been a model for me in level-headedness, in responding instead of reacting, because for years, and I've kind of filled that gap a little bit, but you still take a lot of the disgruntled client calls. I mean, a lot of that stuff comes into you, and frankly, for a long time, it was because I sucked at it so bad that it just wasn't good. And we'll trade off. You'll tell me, Joe, I can't talk to this guy. It's not going to go well. You should call this guy. And so we've kind of tried to go back and forth on that when we know we can't separate our emotions, but not just verbally attacking someone. Listening, truly listening, and making a logical decision, response, whatever the interaction may be, is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. The listen to understand rather than respond is a big deal. Very important.
Right.
Very important.
And part of that is not compromising your values. So we go back to culture, and we go back to understanding who you are as a person and who you are as a company. So, no, I'm better than this. No, I this isn't who I am. But it's not enough to just say this isn't who I am. You start acting a certain way, it is who you are, Perception is reality. So if you're putting it out there, if you're a negative person and in your head, I'm not a negative person,
Right.
but everything you say is negative, you are now a negative person, regardless of how you feel about yourself or what you're thinking in your head. If you're not staying true to your values, both as a person and as a company, you're going to come up short. It's going to cost you both in life and in business. So I think that's a big part you talk about in this section. What are things you could do? I think assessing your values and establishing a set of values, not just for your company, but for yourself as a person. What do I believe in? Who
Right.
am I as a person?
Right.
Goes a long way in self-regulating yourself, because you can stop yourself and say, I'm better than this.
Right.
That's not who I am.
Write that down.
Right.
right? You got to write that down.
Absolutely.
So-
Write everything down.
Right.
Seeing stuff and writing stuff's huge for me.
Yeah, it's big. Yeah, it's weird when you involve your senses, even just the touch, rather than putting it in your phone, which I've gotten in the habit of doing. When
Me
I,
too.
yeah,
We talked about it on the show, not doing it. Now I look at my phone and I got all these notes. I'm like, when
know,
did I start
man.
doing this?
I know it's weird when you write, when you touch being a sense, obviously, when you write it down, see it, man, it makes a
difference for
big
me, too.
difference.
I agree.
It really does. It really does. So, all right, so we have a salesperson, whatever, a person in a dealership. So, and this person is lacking in most or all of these skills.
Right.
How do we help him or her? What do we, as a manager, what do we do? Where do we start, would you say, in your opinion?
So I think you start with culture, but I think it should have been established on day one. So I think, again, this all starts at the top. And whether it's the top of your family, if you're the leader of your family, if the leader of your business, if you're not establishing these things and establishing it in the right way, not ruling with an iron fist, but
Right.
but explaining to people why these are the values, why these are important, giving the whys instead of just do this, do this, do this, and letting them see how it's going to affect. Because let's face it, no matter how much anyone loves their job, they love their family and they love their free time a lot more.
Yeah.
So show them how it's going to make a positive impact that way.
Great.
And how it's going to improve their actual life and not just their job.
Great. That's a big point. And I hope I would ask that you people write this down. What Joe just said. Let me paraphrase it for you. That telling someone, sharing invaluable information is important, but it's only a step. The real how it's going to stick is the why behind it. In other words, what's in it? Here's what's in it for you. Here's your why. If you do this, if you practice what I'm suggesting you do starting now, here's what'll happen for you. Here's what's in it for you. This is the why. This is why I'm asking you to do
Absolutely.
this, because this is how it's going to improve your life.
Absolutely.
In both your area of work and at home. The why is really important. In management, frankly, it's easy to overlook that because you have so many responsibilities. You got shrapnel flying at you at all different directions and speeds, and to sit down and take a breath and say, "Okay, dude, here's why I want you to take this guy for a demo drive," instead of, "Did you drive him in a car? No. Why?" Hey, look, next guy you don't drive in a car, just get in your car and follow him home because you're gone. Tell him why it's important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And frankly, you mentioned responsibility. You mentioned telling them why and doing it right the first time. That should be it. You mentioned you have an employee who doesn't do any of these.
Right.
Don't keep giving somebody second, third chances. It's one thing if they're screwing up on a process or asking for help. If this is just it's not there and they're just emotionally
Yep.
checked out, move on.
Yeah.
It's a cancer. It's causing problems. It's causing so many unforeseen problems on your
Right.
sales floor that you know nothing about, costing you money, costing other people around them money. You don't need that. So you make sure they understand.
Yep.
You do things right initially,
Yep.
and then hold them accountable and hold yourself accountable. That's a big part of this, is
Agreed.
holding yourself accountable. If you're a leader
hard.
and you're holding yourself accountable for the things that you believe in and your values, it's a lot easier to hold other people accountable and to lead other people. If you're coming up short
Yeah.
and you know you're not doing the things you're supposed to be doing and living your life the way you're supposed to be doing, it's really hard for you to instill that on other people.
Yeah, nearly impossible.
Right.
I would say it would be nearly impossible unless the machine is so big. It's just you'd have to attempt to sabotage it. I think it's nearly impossible. If you don't have your shit together, the
Right.
rest of your team is not going to.
You have to have a certain faith in yourself, though, too. Is
Absolutely.
You have to.
Is what you kind of were saying before. If you're acting out one way, but you're thinking another, that's not the same thing. You've got to
Right,
actually
that's-
believe, and
right.
then that belief.
Yeah, you
Right.
can't fake it. Absolutely.
No, and it's hard. This is not easy stuff, but this is second level stuff. This is the
Very
stuff that
much.
eliminates recessions. It eliminates
It is second level
n-
stuff. This is way outside the
Yeah.
box.
right.
Being a better person, creating a better society type
Right.
stuff. I mean,
Yes.
you can be as hokey with it as you want, but these are facts. This
Right.
is not. This is getting at. You
Right.
talk about the whys. This is the whys things succeed and don't. And you
Right.
said something that I don't agree with. I don't think it matters how big it gets. crappy companies, no matter how big they get exposed
Well, I
because
guess
they
General
fall short
Elec-
on stuff like
General
this.
Electric.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It
good
doesn't
point.
matter. And at some point, even if it's crappy at a store level,
Yeah, good
it
point.
usually, you